Hi everyone, my name is Desiree and today I'll be presenting on the separation of powers in the U.S. government, how executive regulatory agencies can create rules that act like law, and some landmark cases that clarify the limits of each branch. The U.S. government is designed with checks and balances to prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful. Legislative power held by Congress creates laws. Executive power led by the president enforces those laws, often through regulatory agencies, and the judicial power led by the Supreme Court interprets laws when conflicts or legal questions arise. Understanding this framework is essential for seeing how agencies operate under the executive branch while remaining accountable to the Congress and the Constitution. We're going to explore how separation of powers works in practice. Regulatory agencies under the executive branch, such as the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, or the Securities and Exchange Commission, are granted authority by Congress to create detailed rules called regulations. These regulations carry the force of law, but agencies must act only within the limits set by Congress. For example, Congress may pass an environmental law, and the EPA develops specific regulations to implement that law. Similarly, the SEC enforces rules about financial disclosures to protect investors. The judicial branch ensures these agencies do not exceed their authority, reviewing regulations when questions of legality or overreach arise. This system balances efficiency with accountability. Agencies can handle complex technical details, but they remain subject to oversight from both Congress and the courts. This ensures that power is not concentrated in one branch while allowing the government to function effectively. Some landmark court cases illustrate how the separation of powers and limits on agency authority work in practice. First, we're going to go ahead and talk about Crowell versus Benson from 1932. This clarified the difference between public and private rights. The court ruled that agencies could make determinations on private rights, but judicial review is still necessary to protect constitutional guarantees. Next is Panama Refining Company versus Bryan in 1935. They struck down a law that gave the president overly broad discretion. This case emphasized the non-delegation doctrine, showing that Congress cannot hand unlimited lawmaking authority to an executive agency. And then finally, Chevron USA Inc. versus NRDC, versus NRDC in 1984, established what is known as a Chevron difference. The court ruled that courts should generally defer to an agency's reasonable interpretation of a statute it administers. This balances giving agencies flexibility with ensuring they remain accountable to the law. Together, these cases show how checks and balances operate, keeping agencies powerful enough to be effective, but limited enough to prevent overreach. In closing, the separation of powers is a foundational principle that shapes how laws are made, enforced, and interpreted in the United States. Regulatory agencies play a role in implementing detailed rules, but their authority is carefully defined by Congress and reviewed by the courts. Understanding this framework allows us to see how balance and accountability are built into our government. Legislative bodies create laws, executive agencies enforce them, and the judiciary interprets them when questions arise. This system ensures that power is distributed, rights are protected, and the government functions effectively. Thank you.